For only the 21st time in NFL history, there is Tuesday Night Football. With Amie Wells, I'm Mike Keith, and that Tuesday Night Football is coming from right here at Nissan Stadium as the 3-0 Tennessee Titans will play host to the 4-0 Buffalo Bills. It's only been 16 days since the game at Minnesota, but those 16 days feel like a lifetime based on what all has occurred.
Yeah, Mike, there's been a lot of highs and lows for this team in the last 16 days. It really feels like a lot has transpired. It feels like it was 1994 when we were in Minnesota taking on the Vikings. But here we are now. This team is ready to play, and it feels good to be back at Nissan Stadium.
It feels good to be back indeed. The Buffalo Bills are here. Let's take a look at their inactives for tonight. There are some significant ones. Jake Fromm is the third quarterback, so that's not a surprise. But Smoke Brown, number 15, the speedy wide receiver, not playing. That's a big deal. Zach Moss is a rookie running back from Utah who's kind of their power back. So Devin Singletary will have the majority of the load. And there you see Tre'Davious White, Pro Bowl corner, one of the best shutdown corners in the league. He's not playing tonight. We already knew that linebacker Matt Milano was out. Former Titan Quentin Spain battling a foot problem. And veteran tight end Lee Smith has only been active for one game so far this year. So no big shocks at the end of the list, but early in the list, some big names for the Bills. For the Titans, just 4 actual inactives as they get down to it. And it's Derek Roberson, Daniel Munyer, and 2 guys that were activated from the COVID-19 reserve list today, Christian Fulton and Kamale Correa. So no big shocks there. We also need to tell you that Isaiah Wilson, while he has been listed on the active roster, the Titans were given a roster exemption for him through tomorrow. So technically, they only came into this game with 52 on the roster anyway. That's the reason they only had to go down 4. The Titans are at a point tonight where they will obviously be missing some significant players due to the COVID-19 list. And that's going to be one of the bigger keys of the night. But we start with who's returning, and that's A.J. Brown. We expect him to start at wide receiver tonight, and that's a big deal.
Absolutely it is. Having A.J. Brown back on the field, especially helping out these Titans receivers when, frankly, there aren't a lot of starters that are listed right now, that's going to be really helpful for this Titans team.
Good news, too, that Taylor Lewan is not inactive. He's going to try to play tonight, and with the Bills' pass rush, that's a big deal to have 77 back.
Absolutely. 77 on that left side of the ball is really one of the staples of that offensive line. Taylor Lewan and Roger Saffold are really having a great season so far. Being able to have that consistency, make sure that Ryan Tannehill has the time that he needs to assess all of his options on offense can only help this Titans team. A.J.
Brown and Taylor Lewan going to give it a go. Who is not available for the Titans as far as the COVID-19 reserve list? Well, it's a lot of big names. We start with Jeffrey Stewart, or I should say we start with Jeffrey Simmons, but here we begin in order with a couple of wide receivers, Adam Humphries and Cameron Batson, the fullback Kari Blasingame. And then moving forward to Corey Davis, and I mentioned Jeffrey Simmons, the 2 players who come back today, and that is Correa and Fulton, both back to the active roster but not ready to play yet, so you'd probably have to count them among that list. It's 7 key guys not going to go for the Titans tonight.
Yes, it is. Those are the names that Titans fans know and are familiar with, and it's definitely going to be a challenge for this Titans team. This is where that expanded practice squad really comes into play. This is where the National Football League had some foresight this season. The Titans have other options who are familiar with this team. A lot of them have gotten reps on the field in games before. So it's not as bad as it sounds.
Well, let's take a look at what the Titans have done, calling up 4 players from the practice squad. And we start with Cody Hollister, a guy who has had a chance to play in the past, has certainly done a good job as a special teamer and as a receiver. David Quessenberry is up because he plays tackle. I'm going to skip down to the bottom real quick and mention Kareem Orr, who could also play teams, and he is a true corner. But you also see Darren Bates, former Titans special teams ace, who was re-signed after he was let go by the Texans. He comes back to the practice squad. He's up tonight to play teams, but really, Amie, to do more than that.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much that Darren Bates can contribute to this team, and I think it starts and ends with his enthusiasm, his excitement. He's been at some of the games that the Titans have played in suites and away from the team because he was on the practice squad. You can hear him cheering on the field at Nissan Stadium from being up in the club level. He's so excited to be a part of this team in whatever capacity he can be. So to have his enthusiasm on the field, especially in special teams, especially if he's getting some reps with the defense, that isn't something you can replicate with anybody else.
Brings energy.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it, brings energy. You know what else the Titans need to bring in this game? And that is some dominant control play from the offensive line. These guys need to control this ball game. They're healthy for the most part. They're experienced. And this is a night where you feel like those guys have to win.
Absolutely, and this is when we were talking earlier about the importance of Taylor Lewan being back. That's crucial to this offensive line, but the entire group, the chemistry that they've established to this point in this season, the consistency that they're able to play with, so valuable to every function of the offense. They're going to be an incredibly important part of the game today.
On the flip side of this, the Titans must stop the Bills' run. We mentioned Devin Singletary, nicknamed Motor out of Florida Atlantic, second-year back, not a big guy, but a versatile guy. If he gets going, he's a big problem. Titans have been giving up 5.8 yards per carry. They have got to do a better job in run defense tonight.
Yes, they absolutely do, and a lot of the defense has been working on that. This is something that week after week we've talked about. This isn't the first time that the Titans have realized that run defense is something that we need to be working on. This is a consistent thing for them this week. Even though they haven't gotten the reps on the field that maybe they would have liked to have gotten, they've had the virtual meetings. They've had the time to talk it through. It's all about technique. It's all about knowing that scheme. I think they're ready for the day.
Well, you hope so. One of the challenges for the Titans is they have only practiced 2 times in 16 days. One of the practices over the last 3 days was just a walkthrough, and they haven't had the pads on at all. So with those fits, that's good, but the Titans have to make sure that they tackle well. Not an easy task when you haven't tackled anybody in 16 days. The Titans pleased to have guys back. One of the guys they are most pleased to have back, Bo Brinkley, the long snapper.
Absolutely. Special teams players are kind of like oxygen. You don't realize how much you need it until you don't have it anymore. And Bo Brinkley is one of those guys who's been so consistent for this Titans team. You never talk about the long snapper because he's such a consistent part of the Titans special teams effort. Having him back, having him on the field is just more of anything a sigh of relief for this Titans team. It's one less thing to have to think about. That's Bo Brinkley.
Do the Titans have enough gas to win this ball game? And that's emotionally, that's mentally, that's physically. That's one of the big questions entering the game tonight that I think most football people would tell you is a fair question.
Mike Vrabel has been talking about it every time that we've heard from him in the last 16 days, and that's these guys mentally, making sure that they're in a good place. Of course, first and foremost was everybody's health, but then making sure that mentally they were still engaged, they were still thinking about the game plan, they were still preparing in the way that they needed to, and not getting overly exhausted by the highs and lows that these last couple of days have brought.
Titans could really stand to play this game from in front. With everything they've been through, Amie, it would seem like a difficult challenge to come from 12 down like they did at Minnesota. That may be too much to ask of this ball club right now.
Yeah, it seems like this is a game where you want to come back, get ahead, establish that energy early, and then just keep it rolling all night long. That's what we need on a Tuesday.
Pound Derrick Henry.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Only the third Tuesday night game in the NFL since 1946. The New York Giants beat the Boston Yanks in what was the first full year of the Harry Truman administration. And then in 2010, Minnesota beat Philadelphia on a Tuesday night following a blizzard. You know why we're here. We're very glad to be here. And you can hear us on Titans Radio tonight Again, kickoff shortly after 6 o'clock Central Time at Nissan Stadium. Thanks for joining Amie Wells and me, Mike Keith, for this look in from Nissan Stadium before Titans-Bills on a Tuesday.